Good morning, sir. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We may have a small technical issue with the transcription service. No, it's been fixed. Wonderful. We're just waiting for the witness in that case.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Thank you, sir. This morning we're going to hear from Mrs. Sangha.
Yeah.
Okay, if you repeat after me.
Okay.
I do solemnly,
I do solemnly,
sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Can you give your full name, please?
Yeah, it's Rajbinder Sangha.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sangha. You should have in front of you a bundle that contains a witness statement behind the first tab. That witness statement has the unique reference of WITN 103000100. Is it dated the 20th of December 2023?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Could I ask you to turn to the final page, page 11, and can you see a signature there?
Yes,
Is that your signature?
it is.
Can you confirm that that statement is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I can.
Thank you very much. That statement will be published on the inquiry's website, and anything I'm asking you today will be supplementary to that. I think we see you in some documents as Rajbinder Baines, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Was that your maiden name?
It was, yes.
Thank you. You currently work at Fujitsu.
Yes.
Before joining Fujitsu, you graduated from university with a BSc in Information Systems in 2005, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. You held a number of customer services and administrative roles at various companies before joining Fujitsu.
Yeah.
And that included customer service liaison officer at Dell
Yeah.
and a senior administrator at a Hewlett-Packard company.
Correct.
Thank you. You joined Fujitsu in 2010, July 2010?
Yes, that's correct.
And you were a part of the Fraud and Litigation Support Office.
Yes.
You held the role of Fraud and Litigation Support Officer.
Yes.
You took some leave in 2016 and rejoined in 2017 as part of the Release Management Department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And you stayed in that role until the present day.
Yes.
Today we're going to be focusing on the period 2010 to 2016, so the period where you were part of the Fraud and Litigation Support Office. You, as part of that job, processed audit data and extracted audit data
Correct.
for what we know as ARQ requests,
Yeah.
or sometimes referred to as ARC requests. Can you assist us with very briefly explaining what an ARQ or an ARC request is?
An ARC request was a record of the transactions that had taken place over the counter at different branches.
And is it held at Fujitsu as part of Fujitsu's records?
Yes.
And what was your job in relation to that?
My job was to process the requests that we received from Post Office. So just extract the data and then send it back to Post Office.
Can we please look at FUJ 002321007? This is an email from 2013. If we turn to the third page, we can see the background to this. It seems as though there's been a question about the amount of data that is archived. I think this particular email relates to an investigation that's at that time going on by Detica. If we turn to the first page, you set out there the contractual limits to ARQ requests. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So can you please explain to us what the difference between those three figures are in that email?
So this would have been information that I would have got from senior members of the team, because I was not involved in how many ARQs was set per se. So obviously I've gone back on this email to say that in terms of ARQs, we would have 720. For litigation, it would be 250.
So am I right to distinguish those two? ARQs would be the first line for some other purpose than litigation.
Yes.
Perhaps some sort of disciplinary investigation or something along those lines, or what might that typically be?
I can't remember. Remember.
Over time, I think you became involved in other tasks. That can come down, thank you.
Correct.
You described in your witness statement maintaining a database of user permissions and processing security check applications as well.
Correct.
You've also described working on reconciliation.
Yes.
Can you assist us with what you meant by
So
that?
reconciliation was a report that we would run every morning for transactions that had not completed over the counter. So our role was to investigate why these, raise calls and investigate why these transactions hadn't completed.
There were other tasks that members of your team were involved in. You've described those as providing Fujitsu help desk logs and also providing witness statements in court cases. Is that right?
Correct.
Can you assist us? Who were the members of your team?
The two people that I worked with were Penelope Thomas and Andy Dunks.
And can you assist us with what their roles or titles were?
I think their titles were the same. The roles were, so Andy provided ARQ requests, he processed ARQ requests, he provided help desk calls and also witness statements. And Penelope was the same minus the help desk calls. So she processed ARQ requests and provided witness statements.
Thank you. I'm just going to stop you there briefly. Sir, I don't know if you're hearing any feedback at all. We have a little internal noise in this room. I'm just wondering if it's affecting...
It's not coming through to me, and even allowing for my growing age, Mr. Blake, if there is a noise, I can't hear it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm told it's a monitor next to the transcriber. Ms. Baines, does it affect you at all?
No, it's
Thank you. You described there are two people in your team.
correct.
Are you in the same room? Is it a small room, large room?
It's a small secure room, so we would only have access to that room.
So there are three of you, all had secure access to a single room,
Yes.
working together in that room. Where was that office?
It was based in Bracknell.
In Bracknell. I think we will see some emails about people on different floors. Where were you in relation to, say, the engineers or those who were working on?
So I would be based on the 4th floor, and then we had another team called the SSC, and they were based on the 6th floor.
Thank you. We see in some documents somebody called Gareth Jenkins, who we've heard a great deal about,
Yes.
being described as expert litigation support. Is that a description that you're familiar with at all? Sorry, because
No.
it's being transcribed.
No.
No. Did somebody like Gareth Jenkins have a different role in relation to the team, to yourself?
Not that I'm aware of, no, I don't remember.
Can we please look at FUJ 00226099, please? Thank you. This is an email from Penny Thomas to yourself, and you can see there it's headed expert litigation support.
Yep.
And she seems to be having a conversation, or sets out a conversation between herself and somebody called Matthew Church. Do you know who Matthew Church was?
I don't remember, sorry.
She says there, "Hi Matthew, I'm in the process of putting together the charges for Gareth Jenkins for the expert litigation support he provides. Could you please advise what you charge as an hourly rate? This is to cover February activities." And his response is his daily rate is £1,199 divided by 7.4 hours to get the hourly rate of £162.02. So that term, expert litigation support, was not something that you were familiar with?
No.
No? Can we look at one more document? It's FUJ 00226107. This is again an email from yourself. The subject here is expert litigation support. There are various figures given, so we've heard about the case of Mr. Ishak. It sets out there the expenses for Gareth Jenkins for the Ishak case. And then it says, Gareth booked 31 hours for expert litigation support. His time was expended on the following. Predominantly, this is for the Ishak case, but also related to the second site investigation and other cases, for example, Sefton and Niels, Dixon and Brown. And it sets out there a cost for March of £5,291. What was your role in relation to the fees of Mr. Jenkins?
I had no role in the fees. Basically, this information would have been sent to me, and then my role was just to send it on to post office.
And who would it have been sent to you by?
It would have been, so the information on here would have been sent from Gareth himself to myself.
Are you able to assist us with typical fees per month that might have been incurred by Mr. Jenkins?
I can't remember.
I'm going to move on to the topic of your knowledge of issues with the Horizon system. I'm going to begin with when you joined. Can we start by looking at FUJ 001225588, please? Thank you very much. This is a document that predates your joining the team, so it's a 2008 document. It's unlikely that you saw it, but if you did see it, please do let us know. But I'm just going to take you through to see what kind of information was passed on to you when you joined the team. If we look at the first page, it's called HNGX CP, strengthen the HNGX audit solution and enable analysis of counter-event messages. Are you able to assist us with what HNGX CP means? I'm able to say that HNGX is what we know as Horizon Online. Does that assist you at all? It seems to be a proposal.
Yeah, I can't remember, sorry.
Okay, we start with a description of the audit system and ARQ service. It says, we are contractually obliged to support the prosecution support service via CS and provide historical extracts of data from the audit archive, 7 years of data used in legal proceedings, often to prove accusations of fraud against postmasters. Pausing there, was that your understanding of the contractual position?
Yes.
The completeness of the data extracts provided is assumed, and witness statements state as much, and it says, see last page. We'll get on to that last page where we see a form of words that's used in witness statements. The service has worked by providing extracts of riposte message stored data only. And then it says, this service, worth the best part of the annual £850,000 security revenue, and that says PS, it looks as though that's inserted by Pete Sewell, will remain to 2015 and beyond. Were you aware of the financial significance of the ARQ service to Fujitsu?
No, I wasn't.
Were you made aware when you joined the business of its significance?
Yes, I was.
Yes. There's then identified in this document a problem, and it quotes from the number of a peak. Are you aware what a peak is? We've looked at those.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So it has PC 0152376 highlighted that in certain error conditions in the EOD process, riposte cannot be relied upon to write a consistent set of messages to the local store. Just pausing there, I wonder whether we can get up PC 012376. It's at FUJ 001-54684. We'll just have a quick look at the underlying peak that's referred to here. It can either be alongside or separate. That's fine, thank you. This is the first page. Could we look at about halfway down the page, if we could have a look at the words, if we scroll down slightly, it refers to a member of the NBSC. Scroll down a little, thank you. Ibrahim from the NBSC, that's the National Business Support Centre, has asked that an issue be investigated by our software team regarding discrepancies still showing when the MIS stock unit is rolled to clear the local suspense account. I'm not going to ask you in any detail about this particular problem, but it relates to discrepancies showing. And if we turn over to page 3, please. There's an entry on page 3 from Mr. Barnes, who we're going to hear from tomorrow. 2nd of January 2008, so this is 2 years before you joined the team. And he says as follows: the fact that EPOS code is not resilient to errors is endemic. There seems little point fixing it in this one particular case because there will be many others to catch you out. For example, when I tried to balance with CAB's process running, I found that declaring cash failed with the same sort of error message. It may be worth passing on the general message to the HNGX team that in many cases code should always try and exit gracefully after an error and not just blunder on regardless. Just pausing there, were you made aware when you joined the team of issues with, for example, the EPOS code?
No, I wasn't.
No. Could we go back to the document that we were just looking at? So that's FUJ 001225888, please. Were you aware with general issues regarding data integrity and concerns about the integrity of, for example, ARQ data?
No, I wouldn't have been because it wasn't part of my role, and if there was issues within the system, it would be dealt with higher members of the team, so members that had more knowledge of the system.
Sticking where we are, let's move to the second bullet point under problem. It says this particular issue has been fixed, but it's very probable that similar problems exist in the Horizon system. Therefore, the process of providing data now needs to include the extraction and cross-checking of event data to help identify where data integrity might be compromised. The statements currently asserted in witness statements cannot be guaranteed in all cases, even after this CP, but this CP seeks to strengthen the process and allow us to reliably identify where the assertion can or cannot be made. And then it says, current process, many manual steps requiring great care and skill from individual resources, obvious potential for human error, data distributed or transferred over too many platforms/media, inherently insecure, and it's a tactical solution which has introduced further manual steps. Were you aware, as somebody who was involved in that overall ARQ process, that there had been a number of manual steps to work around certain problems?
No, I wasn't.
If we go over the page, please. Under benefit and risk, if we scroll down slightly, it says as follows: if we cannot better identify where data integrity can or cannot be guaranteed, then we're in breach of contract and may be fined heavily or not be able to offer the ARQ service, or will undermine confidence in the service. And then scrolling down, we have that witness statement extract. We'll see in due course this becomes part of or is included in a pro forma type witness statement.
Yeah.
It's a form of words that says as follows: an audit of all information handled by the TMS, that's Transaction Management Service, is taken daily by copying all new messages to archive media, etc. And it details the process that's involved. Just pausing there on this particular document, do you think at the time that you joined the ARQ team, it would have been helpful to have known about concerns about the integrity of the ARQ system?
Yes.
Yes. You joined then in July 2010. Could we please move to FUJ 001222925, please? This is 14th of July 2010, and you are sent by Penny Thomas a standard witness statement for you to read through. Now, was this very early on in your time? Was this reading into the job, or?
Yes, it was. It was reading into the job and understanding what roles we were undertaking.
And we can have a look at that standard witness statement. That's at FUJ 001222926. Thank you very much. This is the attachment to that email, and it doesn't currently have anybody's name on it. It's a pro forma standard witness statement that says as follows. It says, I'm authorised by Fujitsu Services to undertake extractions of audit archive data and to obtain information regarding system transactions recorded on the Horizon system. Scrolling down, it says, Horizon's documented procedures stipulate how the Horizon system operates, and while I'm not involved with any of the technical aspects of the Horizon system, these documented processes allow me to provide a general overview. Was it your understanding that this was to be used by those who weren't, for example, the engineers like Gareth Jenkins, so didn't have quite that technical understanding, but who nevertheless provided some evidence in criminal proceedings?
Yes, correct.
Could we scroll over the page, over to page 3? On that second paragraph on page 3, that's the form of words that I just took you to in that earlier 2008 document. And then if we go over the page again, there is, if we scroll down a little bit, it sets out the various controls that apply to the audit extraction process. For example, it says that 1, extractions can only be made through the audit workstations which exist at Fujitsu Services, and it gives the address. Can I just, stopping there, were you part of that extraction process? Did you extract?
Yes.
Yes. Number 2, logical access to the audit workstation and its functionality is managed in accordance with certain principles. They include dedicated logins, password control, and use of Microsoft Windows NT security features. So in order to extract the data, there were certain security controls in place to ensure that there were sufficient controls on that data.
Correct, yes.
3, all extractions are logged on the audit workstation and supported by documented audit record queries authorised by nominated persons within the Post Office. This log can be scrutinised on the audit workstation. 4, extractions are only made by authorised individuals, etc. So this is essentially reassuring a court as to the integrity of the data because it can't be accessed by those who don't have a login, for example.
Yes.
If we go over the page, please, to page 5. If we scroll down 3/4 of the way, we can see where a particular ARQ number is inserted. So this is the pro forma part that would be filled out by the person completing that statement. ARQ number, so I think that means to insert the number there.
Yes.
Was received on insert the date and asked for information in connection with post office at, and then you give the post office branch details. And that's effectively producing the ARQ data for the court. Is that your understanding?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
And could we scroll down to the final substantive page? It's page 7. Thank you very much. And it's that paragraph that's currently on the screen, the bottom paragraph there. This is another part of that standard witness statement. It's a form of words that we'll see in a number of other witness statements. It says as follows, there is no reason to believe that the information in this statement is inaccurate because of the improper use of the system. To the best of my knowledge and belief, at all material times, the system was operating properly, or if not, any respect in which it was not operating properly or was out of operation was not such as to affect the information held within it. Did that paragraph at the time cause you any concern?
No.
No. Does it now cause you any concern?
No, it doesn't. No.
It doesn't cause you any concern. We're now going to look at an issue in 2010, so the year you joined, with ARQ data. Could we please look at FUJ 001-72183? The document we're going to look at is another peak, and we're going to look at an entry that begins on the 21st of June 2010, so very soon before you joined. It's FUJ 001-72183. And it covers the period when you did join subsequently.
Okay.
But we'll start with the entry on the 21st of June 2010. Thank you. So we can see there it's PC 02000468. There's a summary at the top. Perhaps I will read that out, but we will get to that. That's further down in the log. It says, from Penny, in a nutshell, the HNG-X, that's Horizon Online, application is not removing duplicate transactions, which may have been recorded twice in the audit server, and they are appearing in the ARQ returns. For the old Horizon application, Riposte automatically removed duplicate entries. An initial analysis shows that 1/3 of all ARQ returns, since the new application has been in play, have duplicated transactions. If we scroll down, please, to the second entry in this log, we have an entry from Penny Thomas. She says, while performing an audit retrieval for branch, and it gives the branch details, duplicate transactions have been found, and it gives the date. Initial analysis shows that duplicate records are held in 2 different audited TMS files. Scrolling down the page, the final entry on the page from Mr. Barnes. He says as follows on the 22nd of June, the way it works is that it processes all the results in a given file, building up an internal table of transaction sequence for that file. Then, at the very end of the processing, the file, it dumps the internal table to and gives details of the table. It does not cross-check the transactions in one file against another file. And he outlines 2 solutions that are possible. There's an easy solution. As each transaction is processed, a check is made, and if it's already there, the transaction is ignored, writing a warning to the query log. The problem with this solution is that a query needs to be made to the database for every transaction. And then he describes a more difficult solution. If we go over the page, please. The internal table, which at the moment is built up on a per file basis, is changed to being built up on a per query basis. The check for duplicate transactions is then done within the internal table. This is a much more thorough approach, but will take much more work. And then there's an entry on the 22nd of June 2010, and it's outlining the details of a fix to this problem. If we scroll down, it describes the impact on the user of the issue. It's about halfway down this page. Thank you. Impact on user. It's almost at the bottom of this page. It says, occasionally, duplicate transactions are listed in the spreadsheets produced and presented to court for prosecution cases. These can give the defence teams ground to question the evidence. And then it says, have relevant KELs been created or updated? So a KEL, are you aware of a known error log?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I do.
It says no known error logs have been created for this, since we intend to fully resolve the issue shortly. And if we scroll down, there are risks that are outlined of the fix. And it says, if we do not fix this problem, our spreadsheets presented in court are liable to be brought into doubt if duplicate transactions are spotted. And if we go over the page, please. It says query DLL.dll is a recent component introduced for Horizon Online and has not yet fully bedded down, and so it's likely to change as problems such as this one are spotted. Just pausing there, on joining the team, and you've said it was a small team, 3 people, were you not made aware of issues such as this that could affect the reliability of information presented to court?
No, I wasn't made aware.
If we scroll down, let's look at the entry of the 23rd of June from Penny Thomas, it's just there. It says, initial analysis of all ARQ returns since the Horizon Online application has been implemented identifies approximately 1/3 of all returns have duplicate entries. This is now extremely urgent. Scroll down, please, towards the bottom of the page, an entry of the 7th of July 2010. It's the bottom entry that's currently on screen, 7th of July 2010, and it says as follows. It says that it's been fixed, essentially, 7th of July. And then if we keep on going down, scrolling down, over the page of the 30th of July, it seems there's, in fact, a testing of the fix, 30th of July. It says there, the entry from Sheila Bamba says, this peak has been tested in LST and fix will be released with release 2 data center. And down to the bottom of the page, an entry from Penny Thomas. 1st of September 2010, fix successfully deployed. So it seems as though that peak, that incident log was open from before you joined and wasn't closed until the 1st of September and wasn't successfully fixed until the 1st of September.
Correct.
So after you had joined the
Yes.
team. Does it cause you any concern that you weren't aware of that kind of thing on joining and into?
Yeah, it does, because obviously I didn't realise that the data, that there was these issues with the...
Can we please have a look at FUJ 00172-047? This is an email chain from Penny Thomas. You are copied in at this stage, and this is 21st of July 2010, and its title is PC 02000468. So it does certainly seem as though you were copied into conversations about this particular issue. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Could we please look at page 10? It's a discussion of the issue that we've just looked at. So from Penny Thomas to Pat Lywood, are you able to assist us? Who, I think it says at the top there, Service Implementation Manager. Was Pat Lywood somebody who you knew?
No.
No. If we look at that final entry, Penny Thomas says as follows, the bottom entry. We have a very significant problem which has been recorded, and it gives the peak details. In a nutshell, The Horizon Online application is not removing duplicate transactions, which may have been recorded twice on the audit server, and they are appearing in the ARQ returns. For the old Horizon application, Riposte automatically removed duplicate entries. An initial analysis shows that 1/3 of all ARQ returns since the new application has been in play have duplicated transactions. That's the entry effectively taken from the peak or later inserted into the peak. Can we look at page 9, please? You're not at this stage copied in. This is a chain that was ultimately copied to you, but you're not part of this discussion. If we look at the bottom of page 9, there's an email from Graham Walsh to a number of people at Fujitsu. Looking at their names, they all seem to be involved in the technical aspects of Horizon. Sorry, it's the bottom of page 8. Thank you. If we stop there, and then the email itself is on the top of page 9, as we can see. He says as follows: please see below and attached for your information. In essence, we have a problem with the ARQ extraction tool. Under Horizon, this would inhibit the duplication transactions held for the audit server and thus supply evidence for court, etc., without duplicate records. However, the Horizon Online tool does not, and thus duplicate records that cannot be differentiated are supplied as evidence, thus could allow for legal challenge to the integrity of the system. Now, you don't have recollection of discussing this issue. You're at least on the chain of this issue.
Right.
Why do you think it is that the significance of this was not more prominent in your 3-person team?
I think this was dealt with senior members of the team that obviously had more knowledge of the system.
But you are one of those people who is extracting the
Correct.
ARQ data. It says that there is a problem with the ARQ extraction tool and could allow for a legal challenge to the integrity of the system. I mean, looking back at it, does it seem to you to be quite a significant issue?
Yes, looking back at it now, yes, it is.
But it wasn't at the time, or wasn't seen within your team as a significant
yes.
issue? Or not sufficiently prominent to draw to your attention?
Yeah.
Could we look at the bottom of page 6 and into page 7, please? There's an email from Andrew Mansfield, and he says as follows: Gerald has produced a fix for release 1 and it's ready to go. He has added an impact statement to the peak that includes a brief statement on testing. An audit request should be performed that retrieves and processes TMS files containing duplicate transactions. It should be confirmed that the duplicate transactions have been removed from the final spreadsheet generated by the audit application. The peak is currently with RMF for targeting, and he says, there has been discussion of a possible workaround. This involves modifying the audit queries so that the message numbers are included in the output to the spreadsheets. Currently, they are not. This would allow the duplicate messages to be identified and removed by running a macro on the final spreadsheet generated by the application. He then says, if we could scroll down slightly, Penny Thomas is in discussion with the Post Office over whether this workaround is acceptable in the short term. Could we scroll to up, please, to page 5? The bottom of page 5. Thank you. If we could stop there. So we have a message from Penny Thomas saying that the Post Office has gone to Post Office Legal for guidance, and further returns have been identified this morning as bound for court. So that it seems as though ARQ data is heading to court whilst this issue has already been identified. And then we have a response from Graham Welsh, and he says, please see below from Penny. I understand that there are more court cases pending, and whilst the briefing to the investigation has taken place, they're coming back requesting help due to the level of activity and nervousness regarding the current workaround. In terms of workarounds, as somebody who is extracting the data, were you performing this workaround? Were you, for example, manually checking certain things due to this kind of issue?
I can't remember.
I mean, presumably you did more than just press a button and the ARQ data comes up on your screen.
No, so my role was to extract the data. So basically, enter in the branch code, enter a date range, and that would extract the information. And that was my responsibility.
So you weren't involved in the actual checking of the underlying data?
No, I was not there. I wasn't. My role was not to analyse the data.
And who was it that would perform things like these workarounds that we see here? So something like checking for duplication within.
So part of the process would have been that when we extracted the data, another member of the team would ensure that whatever had been requested was included in is what was produced.
And you say another member of the team. I mean, there were three of you.
So yeah, it would either been Andy or Penny.
Can we please look at page 4? If we scroll up. Thank you. At the bottom of page 4, from somebody called Tom Lillywhite, who is the principal security consultant. He says, I've just read this, suggest keeping Penny in the loop. She knows how nervous the customer is or will become and may have something to add. At this stage, do you have any interaction with the post office?
Apart from processing the request, that's the only interaction I had with them.
So you would send something to the post office?
Yes, yes.
If we have a look at the email above, Mr. Welsh says as follows. He says, sorry if we could just scroll out, thank you. The sooner this is resolved, the easier the task will be in managing post office expectations in this area while minimising the risk of duplicated effort by having to reproduce reports already provided. So it seems as though there is an attempt to avoid having to reproduce those reports that have already been provided in, for example, court proceedings.
Correct.
Given that you were part of a very small team and you were part of that ARQ process, does it not strike you as odd that there wasn't a conversation with, for example, Penny Thomas about this issue?
Penny was a senior member of the team, so she dealt with these kind of issues. But I don't recall having a conversation, no, being told.
Was she somebody who kept her cards very close to her chest? Was she not somebody who discussed issues that were actually affecting the very job that you were carrying out?
Sorry, can you repeat that question again? Sorry.
I think what we've identified is that there is a serious issue that's identified in various emails. If we look at the first email, it seems to have at least been copied to you, but I think your evidence is that you don't remember any discussion about it. And really, my question is, why didn't you have a conversation with Penny Thomas? Was there something about Penny Thomas that made it unlikely that you would have a conversation about it?
I don't recall having the conversation.
Yes, and in terms of Penny Thomas,
Yes.
what was your relationship?
My relationship with Penny was if there was something that I was unsure of in terms of the ARQ request, I would approach her.
Yes. There were, that can come down, thank you. There were three of you in the room. Did you sit in silence all day? Did you discuss matters that affected your work?
We discussed things, yes.
And why do you think it is, or may be, that Penny Thomas didn't discuss an issue such as this with you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Now, we saw that you received that draft statement early on in your time at the post office, the draft pro forma statement that we looked at. That was dated or sent to you on the 14th of July. We're now on the 21st of July when this chain is being sent to you, so not that far after having received that statement. Did it not cause you any concerns about the reliability of the statement, the pro forma statement?
At the time, no, because I was not involved in producing a witness statement or going to court proceedings.
Yes. Does it cause you any concern now?
Yes, it does.
And why does it cause you concern now?
Because obviously we had bugs in the system.
Can we please look at FUJ 0022590? This is another peak. Thank you. This is peak PC 020430, and it relates to duplicate JSN detected. And the summary there, if we scroll down, support overhead currently 30 incidents in 5 days. Resolution will mean that any future occurrences will have a different root cause and require investigation. Such incidents are currently getting masked by the volume associated with this peak, with consequential risk to the integrity of the audit trail used for litigation support. If we scroll down, please, we have an entry of the 13th of September. So a couple of months into the job. And it says there, exception raised while processing message event, serious system error. And perhaps we could look at page 8, please, and a couple of entries on page 8. Thank you. The second entry there, the 19th of October 2010, an entry that says as follows: a new business impact has been added. This peak will reduce the support overhead because it will reduce the number of alerts associated with duplicate JSNs. It will also mean that any future occurrences will have occurred for a different reason and would require investigation. Such incidents are currently getting masked by the occurrences associated with this peak. There's no immediate benefit to the customer other than support engineers no longer need to worry about these types of alerts and can focus on other alerts. Currently, this type of error generates a relatively high frequency of alerts on a daily basis, masking other types of error. If we scroll down near the bottom of the page to the 2nd of November, an entry from Steve Parker. He says as follows, the business impact has been updated. Support overhead, currently 30 incidents in 5 days. Resolution will mean that any future occurrences will have a different root cause and require investigation. Such incidents are currently getting masked by the volume associated with this peak, with consequential risk to the integrity of the audit trail used for litigation support. Do you recall this issue?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
And why do you recall this issue? Or was it about this issue that stood out?
I just remember being made aware that we had duplicate JSNs. In terms of the severity of it, technical background, I didn't have that much knowledge of the system, but I remember being told about this, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to take you to an email chain. It's at FUJ 002287770. It's an email chain from November 2010. And can we start on page 5, please? We'll see your name appear within this email chain. If we look at page 5, you're not currently copied in on this particular email, but this describes the workaround to this particular problem. The subject is PC 02043110 duplicate JSN detected, so that's the peak that we've just been looking at. And Mr. Parker says, it will be difficult to get the right technical people together on this one for a face-to-face discussion. My take on it is, number one, risk to support is large. It's impossible for support to check all the duplicate JSN events to ensure they are the same issues described on, and it gives details. Number two, the 100 approximate incidents that supports have checked all fall into the scenarios described in, and that's a particular reference. These are all safe to ignore. 3, we risk other parts of the program by trying to force through a fix. I think we've heard during earlier parts of this inquiry things like code regression or other issues with code caused by particular fixes.
Yes.
Is that something you're aware of?
I'm not aware of it.
As a general principle?
Yeah, as a general principle, yeah.
4, risk to audit is very small. Should a true duplicate JSN slip through, then it will be noticed by a failure as described, and it gives a reference. Such incidents will still need to be investigated urgently. A pragmatic approach, given the above, is to ignore all duplicate JSN messages in BAL logs until the issue is resolved, which is going to be early next year. There is a small risk that by ignoring this event, we will be missing an issue that needs investigation. If we look at page 3, at the bottom of page 2 into page 3, there is discussion about the workaround that is going to take place until the actual resolution of the issue. Bottom of page 2 into page 3. It's an email from somebody called Sarah Selwyn to Steve Parker and others. Is Sarah Selwyn someone familiar to you?
I know of her, yeah.
Do you know what her role was at all?
I can't remember.
So, thank you. She says as follows, Steve, I agree with your approach. As long as any JSN duplicates that match the criteria described are still investigated urgently, as you described below in item 4. The second paragraph explains the workaround. She says, what has not been highlighted below is the additional effort that the existence of duplicates places on the litigation support team. Until the 2 fixes related to the peaks described below are delivered to live, Penny and team will need to run the macro provided as a workaround against every spreadsheet generated by the fast ARQ method to determine if there are any duplicate spreadsheet rows present. These rows do not include JSN. Just pausing there, we're going to hear more about it this week. But can you assist us with what a fast ARQ was as opposed to a slow one?
A fast ARQ, what I can recall is I think we used to put the date range and the FAD code and click a button and it would return the data.
And a slow one would be what, more manual?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Thank you. If we go back to the substantive email, please. It continues as follows. It says, if there are any duplicate spreadsheet rows present, these rows do not include JSN. If there are duplicates present, then Penny and team run one of the slow ARQ queries, which have been modified to include JSN in order to determine if the duplicate is a true duplicate. So it seems as though the workaround involves looking for duplicate entries and then changing the process if duplicate entries are found. Is that something you recall at all?
I don't recall, sorry.
If we look at that third paragraph on the page, about halfway through that paragraph, it says, Penny and team will need to continue manually running the workaround macro until at least April next year. The resolution, thank you very much. The resolution, and it gives the reference to the peak, delivered 3.20 early next year should reduce JSN duplicates in any Horizon Online audit analysed, but the macro will still need to be run until a certain release, just in case the audit being analysed is, etc. So it seems as though Penny Thomas and the team, would that team involve, who would that be, Penny and team? Is that your team? Is that...
Correct. Penny, myself and Andy.
So the three of you would need to continually manually running the workaround macro until April next year. So a considerable period of time. We're in November until April.
Yes.
Do you recall the first document that I took you to, or second document, the 2008 document about legacy Horizon having these manual workarounds which creates risk? If we apply those concerns here, can you see potential risks to this workaround process for audit data?
Yes, I can see potential risks, yes.
And we've seen those witness statements, for example, that talk about the security needed, the logins needed, the special entry to the special room. But if those who are carrying out the process are themselves carrying out a more manual process, do you see risks involved in that?
Yes, yes.
And then if we go to the first page, so the very first, thank you very much, but you're not copied in here. So you were copied into the earlier chain, but this seems to be the top of the chain that don't appear to be copied into. And it's from Penny Thomas, and she says, all the analysis we have conducted covering, in fact, sorry, if we could go over the page, sorry, if we could start on the second page, because there's an email from Sarah Selwyn to Penny Thomas, yourself, and others. And she says, Penny and Raj, thank you both for your analysis of the business impact of running the workaround fixes for detection of JSNs in HNGX audit. Do you remember carrying out analysis of the business impact?
I don't.
No. Do you think it's likely that you were part of that, given that she has addressed both of you and said thank you both
Yes,
for your analysis?
definitely. Yeah, I was a part of it, yeah.
And she says, Penny,
Right, I was just going to say it wasn't on my screen, Mr. Blake, but it popped up as I was saying it. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. So it's an email from Sarah Selwyn who says, Penny and Raj, thank you both for your analysis of the business impact on running the workaround fixes for detection of JSNs in HNGX audit. Penny, the permanent fixes to the audit workstation for JSN detection and analysis will be supplied in the release 4.37, which is currently expected to be out of LST on the 4th of May 2011. There is no live data predicted yet for the release, but usually this would follow within a few days. You should expect to be running the workaround solution until May 2011. That's similar detail to the detail we've just seen. And then if we go, please, to the first page, which is where Penny Thomas addresses a wider audience, explains the workaround. And she says, the analysis we have conducted covering receipts over the last 4 months, does that assist you with your recollection as to the analysis that was conducted?
Yes.
Yes, and what might that mean, covering receipts over the last 4 months?
I think this is the requests that we received, so we would have Can you explain that? Can you just explain that question?
Absolutely. I think you conducted some analysis, and she is telling people about the analysis that's been conducted. Perhaps you can assist us with that first paragraph.
I can't remember the analysis that I had done.
Yes.
Yeah.
But are you able to assist by looking at that, what it might have involved?
I can't, sorry. No.
It continues, we anticipate that by May 11, the bulk of the requests we receive will be for Horizon Online records covering the timeframe January to December 2010. Indeed, from February 2011, the bulk of the requests may consist of Horizon Online records. Then there's a paragraph that describes the workaround, if we scroll down. And she says, therefore, for all retrievals, we will need to include additional spreadsheet and a checking process. And then running additional reports using a macro and manually checking spreadsheets will increase significantly the time to complete a retrieval. I estimate that an additional 20 minutes will be required to complete each ARQ, and that will require an additional 3 working days per month to be found. Additional work requirements are already being placed on the prosecution support team in the form of supporting reconciliation, and there is a possibility we will be more than stretched to fulfill our required ARQ return timeframes. These changes will alleviate unnecessary pressure on the team and should be implemented at the earliest opportunity. Do you recall during this period your small team being particularly busy with these workarounds, with creating, for example, manually checking various spreadsheets?
Yes.
Yes. And did you personally get involved in that process?
Yes, I did.
We've talked about earlier issues that I think your evidence could be accurately summarised as not being seen as such significant issues or not significant enough to have been brought to your attention.
Correct, yeah.
Was this particular issue seen as a significant issue?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yes. And it was seen as a significant issue. Why?
Because of the data we were providing back to Post Office.
And what were the concerns?
That there could be duplicate transactions, and obviously because this information was being provided to Post Office to be taken to court, so it's seen quite...
Because it could impact on the reliability
Correct.
of the audit data that is being provided to the Post Office.
Correct, yes.
I want to ask you about the provision of witness statements. Could we please look at FUJ 00225-719, please? And I'm going to start on the bottom of page 2 into page 3, please. And that's an email of the 6th of September 2010. So we're going slightly back in time now. There's an email from yourself to Andy Dunks, and you say as follows: just spoken to Maureen, and the data for Kirkerswold, that's a post office, needs to be resent as this had duplicated data. I have rerun the reports for you, so please can you check and get these sent to the post office, as I understand that these will also require the witness statements as well. So please can you get this done, as we will need to get this out as soon as possible, as this will be going to court on the 20th of September. So it seems as though there is an ARQ return that contains duplicated data in September 2010, and you are asking Andy Dunks to check. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
And if we scroll up, we have an email from Penny Thomas to yourself and says, please make sure Andy also presents 059. Are you able to assist us with what that means?
No, I don't know what 059 was.
No.
I don't know whether it was an ARQ request or a request for a witness statement.
If we see their subject, and then it has ARQ PO 48-PO 58, and it then refers to 59, does that assist you at all?
No. I don't know what 5.9 would have been. No, sorry.
If we scroll up, please, there's an email from yourself to Penny Thomas, and you say as follows: Andy has checked the information on the disk, but with regards to the witness statement mentioned that I would need to compile this as I have run the retrievals off. Please advise whether I would need to do this. And then if we go over to the first page, please, there's a response from Penny Thomas to Andy Dunks. And she says as follows: Andy, as you know, these returns are reruns of work you have already completed. 3 out of the 12 of your returns contain duplicate transactions. All need to be represented on one disk. They are due in court on the 20th of September. We have to get them to Salford, and they in turn have to relay to the investigator, so we need to get them in the post today. In order to get these out as quickly as possible, I asked Raj to rerun them for you. If you're really unhappy to take ownership of the work she has completed on your behalf, please can you rerun them for yourself? Raj can show you the fast ARQ process, which really is not onerous at all. You will need to update your witness statement. The disk and statement need to be in the post today, please. It seems as though Penny Thomas has effectively stepped in to say that Andy Dunk should be providing the witness statement, but not yourself.
Correct, yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And is that something that she did regularly?
So when I joined the company, I wasn't comfortable in providing a witness statement. So any requests that did come in for a witness statement, it would be either Penny or Andy that would provide that.
Yes. Can we please look at FUJ 001-56224? This is a different case, Preston Road Post Office, and you're being asked by a detective constable, so this is a police request for a witness statement, and he says, firstly, many thanks for producing the further disk with ARQ data for the Preston Road office. Could I please trouble you to provide a statement exhibiting the CD that you sent through? I can provide a draft statement and send it to you unless you have a corporate document that can be used. Penny Thomas provided one such statement previously for this case. And if we look at the top email, there's an email from yourself to Andy Dunks, and you say, I've been requested to produce a statement for Preston Road. Please see below. When you're free, are you able to go through the witness statement document with me, as I have not produced one? Is that a reference to the pro forma statement that we saw earlier today?
Yes, it is, yeah.
And it seems at that point it may be that you're considering whether you will give a witness statement or not.
Yes.
Could we please look at FUJ 001-22622? The officer in that email refers to an earlier witness statement from Penny Thomas, and we have that earlier witness statement. It's dated the 28th of September 2009. And this is very much like the pro forma that we saw earlier. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
If we look at page 3, for example, about halfway down, it has the words Preston Road branch, and it gives that's the insertion of the particular branch into the pro forma. And then that final paragraph, for example, is the one that we saw from the 2008 document into the pro forma.
Yep.
And here we see it in an actual statement. Over the page, please. We have the various controls that apply. We've already looked at those in the pro forma. And then over another page, please. And we have below that, please, over the page, at the bottom of this page, we have that paragraph that appeared in the pro forma. There is no reason to believe that the information in this statement is inaccurate because of the improper use of the system. To the best of my knowledge and belief, at all material times the system was operating properly, or if not, any respect in which it was not operating properly or was out of operation was not such as to affect the information held within it. Now, when we began today and you looked at the pro forma, I think your evidence was you didn't see a problem with that paragraph. Having gone through all of the various issues that have been identified, would you yourself sign up to that form of words?
No, I wouldn't.
And why not?
Because of all the issues that have been identified.
Could we please look at FUJ 00123081? And this is the statement that was ultimately provided. It seems as though Penny Thomas actually provided the Preston Road statement in the end. We're there 19th of October 2010. She's provided a second statement. And she says, further to my statement dated the 28th of September 2009. So that's further to the statement we just saw. And if we could scroll down, please. She then exhibits the data that you produced. And we see at the bottom of the next page. Again, that form of words used at the very bottom into the next page. Same form of words from the previous statement, same form of words from the pro forma. Is that right? If we
Yes.
keep on scrolling, please. Thank you. Could we look at page 17 of the same document, please? There's an email chain on page 17, which is the original request from the officer at the bottom of the page that we've already seen. If we have a little look at that. So that's the request from the officer. And then if we scroll up, Penny Thomas says as follows. She says, please be advised that all requests for Fujitsu support, i.e. data, statements, court attendance, etc., are to be requested via the security team at Salford. We're unable to respond to any requests you may make. And if we scroll up to page 15, please, there's the response from the officer. He emails Mark Dinsdale. Is Mark Dinsdale the appropriate person at Fujitsu to contact about the obtaining of a witness statement? Is that something you're able to assist with?
Mark Dinsdale. I recall the name, but I can't remember whether he was Fujitsu or Post Office.
The officer says as follows, Penny Thomas provided a very thorough statement previously for this case. All I require now is a brief statement to exhibit the second disc, which has been produced. Raja Baines dealt with this request from the post office, and I have received the disc. And then he sets out a potential form of words for a statement, essentially just exhibiting the audit records that you had produced. And if we look at the top of that email, sorry, if we scroll down, the final paragraph there, he says, I would appreciate if this could be passed on to Raj, ideally, or another, who could complete this statement tomorrow and get it sent to me as a matter of urgency as the trial commences next week. If we scroll up to the very top, we have Mark Dinsdale to Penny Thomas. He says, Penny, are you able to ask Raj to do the witness statement, please? So it seems as though very much the officer and those elsewhere potentially at Fujitsu had in mind for you to be the author of that statement. But ultimately, it was Penny Thomas that provided the statement.
Yes, correct, yeah.
If we go back to page 1 of this document, this is the statement that we've just been looking at. There's just a paragraph on the first page that I would like to take you to. So I'm just going to read that second substantive paragraph on this page. It says, the data requested was originally supplied to Post Office Limited on the 26th of August 2010 by Rajbinder Baines. I've reviewed the archived ARQ data extracted by Rajbinder Baines and confirmed that the data provided was extracted from the Horizon system in accordance with the requirements of ARQs 226 to 228/1011 and that the extraction process followed the outlined procedure. I produce a CD containing the results and exhibits them. The CD contains a certified true copy of the original transaction data supplied in August 2010. This data has been held securely on the audit data workstation since its original extraction and contains no additions, deletions, or other amendments. Would you agree that it's quite unusual for somebody who didn't actually download the data to be using this form of words within a witness statement, to be exhibiting data as having been, for example, been extracted in accordance with the requirements and following a certain procedure when in fact she wasn't the one who did the downloading or extraction? Does that strike you as unusual at all?
Looking at it, yes.
Yes. How, for example, could she have said that it was extracted in accordance with procedure? Do you think she was well placed to make that statement?
Well, it would have been a process that I would have followed to extract the information. So,
because if we scroll over and we go to the standard wording that we've been through a couple of times, at the bottom of the second page into the third page, that standard wording again that I think your evidence has been, it's not a form of words that you would have signed up to, that there's no reason to believe that the statement, that the information is inaccurate because of the improper use of the system, and that to the best of her knowledge and belief at all material times the system was operating properly. Did you have a conversation with Penny Thomas in advance of her signing this statement about the system, about the process that you undertook to obtain the ARQ data?
no, I wouldn't have.
So I think in your witness statement, paragraph 21, I can take you to it. I think you say you didn't have a conversation with Penny Thomas about the contents of witness statements.
No, because that was not part of my role to deal with witness statements.
Yes. Do you see it in any way odd or unusual that Penny Thomas would have signed a statement that said that the system was operating properly, exhibiting the ARQ data that you had extracted, but not having any conversations with you about that data?
No.
You don't see that as unusual?
No.
Why not?
It was a process that I followed, and yeah, I was not involved in witness statements, so I just assumed it was part of the process that whatever had been extracted would be included into the witness statement.
I'd like to look at another witness statement. So I'm just looking at the time. Perhaps this is a good moment for our mid-morning break. We'll be finished by lunchtime today.
Yeah, certainly. That's fine, Mr. Blake. When do you want to start again?
Thank you very much. If we start in 15 minutes' time, so 25 minutes to 12, please.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Can you still see and hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to take you to another witness statement, and that is FUJ 00123054. This is the statement that you were the witness for. If we scroll down to the bottom, your signature is at the bottom. It's covered over by our redactions that obscure signatures, but this is a document that's referred to in your witness statement as the one
Yes.
that you were the witness. If we scroll up, please, it's the 14th of October 2010, so it's 5 days before the statement that we were looking at before the break.
Sorry, Mr. Blake, this says the statement is of Miss Thomas.
Yes, it is. So Miss Thomas wrote the statement, and if we look down at the bottom, there is a signature of both the author of the statement and also the person that witnessed the statement.
I'm with you. Thanks.
And at the bottom, on the right-hand side, although it's covered over, Miss Sangha's signature is on the right-hand side at the bottom. So this was 5 days earlier, and if we scroll down, we can see again it's same pro forma witness statement. If we look at page 5, please. This relates to a branch at Wattville Road. We can see that on page 5 in the first substantive paragraph there, near the top it says Wattville Road branch. And then about halfway down that page, it says the requested data for ARQs 197 to 199/1011 was originally supplied to Post Office on the 26th of August 2010 by Rajbinder Baines. I've now reviewed the archive ARQ data, which was extracted by yourself, and confirm that the data provided was extracted from the Horizon system in accordance with the requirements, and that the extraction process followed the outlined procedure. If we continue down near the bottom of the statement, so pages 6 into 7, we have that form of words that we saw in those other statements. It's the bottom of page 6 and 7. Thank you, yes. Could I just take you to your witness statement, and that's WITN 103-00100. So the statement we've just been looking at refers to data that you had extracted, but Penny Thomas provided the witness statement for.
Correct, yeah.
And you witnessed her simply signing the statement itself. It's paragraph 21, page 9 of your witness statement, please. Thank you. And you're referring here to the statement that we've just looked at, and you've said the inquiry has asked to what extent witness statements were generic or fact-specific, whether I read or discussed the contents of witness statements that I witnessed, any concerns I had about the contents, any communications I had with Ms. Thomas, any concerns Ms. Thomas may have had regarding her role. I understood that witness statements were fact-specific based upon what the Post Office had requested. To witness Ms. Thomas signing her statement, I was not expected to read the contents of the witness statement. I cannot now recall having discussions or concerns about the contents of a witness statement that I witnessed. I did not have any discussions with Ms. Thomas in relation to the accuracy of witness statements, nor any concerns she had about her role as a witness in court proceedings. Now, where you refer to fact-specific based upon what the Post Office had requested, I think we've seen today that there was a basic pro forma statement that was adapted to the specific case. In terms of a conversation with Ms. Thomas, again, in relation to a statement that you had both witnessed the signature of and also that referred to data that you had extracted, do you think it's unusual in any way that there wasn't a conversation between yourself and Ms. Thomas about the accuracy or the contents of that statement?
No, looking back on it, no.
No?
No.
Can we please look at FUJ 00171848, please? This is another peak. It's FUJ 00171848. And when we get to it, it's a peak that begins on the 27th of October of 2010. So we have the Wattville Road statement dated the 14th of October 2010. We've got the Preston Road statement that we've also seen the 19th of October 2010, both with the same form of words at the end of that both of those statements. We're now the 27th of October, so very shortly after both of those statements were signed. And this, we have an error log, PC 0205805, and it is summarised as follows if we scroll down. The fast ARQ interface does not provide the user with any indication of duplicate records/messages. This omission means that we're unaware of the presence of duplicate transactions. In the event that duplicates are retrieved and returned to the post office without our knowledge, the integrity of the data provided comes into question. The customer, and indeed the defence and the court, would assume that the duplicates were bona fide transactions, and this would be incorrect. There are a number of high-profile court cases in the pipeline, and it is imperative that we should provide sound, accurate records. If we scroll down, please, to the second entry, 27th of October, we have an entry from Penny Thomas. And she says as follows, she says, the fast ARQ interface does not provide the user with any indication of duplicate records/messages. I think this is it's the same form of words that we've just seen. And then there's an entry from Mr. Barnes at the bottom. It says, Andy and I have looked at this. We think the method most compatible with existing behaviour is as follows. And if we scroll on to the next page, please. Thank you. Yes, the top entry there, please. Thank you. Check for duplicates for HNG Horizon Online in a similar method to how duplicates are checked for in Horizon. I think that's a reference to Legacy Horizon. For Horizon, they are legitimately logged in the audit log and then ignored because it's just an identical messages are stored by mistake in more than one transaction file. For Horizon Online, in the fast ARQ case, their detection will cause them to be logged in the query log and count kept of how many there are, etc. And he sets out further detail there. If we scroll down, please, to the entry of the 5th of November. Thank you. If we could scroll out, and zoom out and look at the final entry on that page, so that final box. Mr. Barnes summarises that he provides a technical summary, and he says as follows, HNGX, a Horizon Online, can rarely produce transactions with duplicate journal sequence numbers. At the moment, when running I think that's a fast ARQ on the audit server, these duplicates are not noticed. This means that the evidence presented by the prosecution team may show duplicate transactions without being noticed. The defence team may spot this and call into question the integrity of our data. And if we scroll down, impact on user, Horizon Online transactions with duplicate JSNs may not be noticed. This will call into question the reliability of evidence presented by the prosecution team. Impact on operations, the prosecution evidence will be more consistent, and so prosecution cases will go through more smoothly. Over the page, thank you very much. If we could highlight that top entry, please. Have relevant known error logs been created or updated? And it says as follows, it was not felt that a known error log was required because there are only 2 people in the prosecution team and they are both fully aware of the problem. That reference to 2 people in the prosecution team, are you one of those 2 people?
I can't remember. I don't.
I think you've described there being 3 people in the team itself.
Yes.
Were 2 people at that stage, so we're 5th of November 2010, were there 2 people who particularly dealt with these kinds of things?
Yes, there were.
And who were those 2 people?
Andy and Penny.
The reference there to 2 people not creating a known error log because only people were in the team and they were fully aware of it. Was this something that you were fully aware of, being the third person in the team or a third person in the team?
I can't remember.
If we look at the risks, it says, if the fix is not released, then duplicate Horizon Online transactions will continue not to be noticed by the prosecution team, which will call into question their evidence. And then it says there are no particular problems with the fix. Does this not seem quite a significant issue for your team?
Yes, it is.
Can you assist us with why a known error log was not created in relation to this issue?
I don't know. It wouldn't have been part of my job role. It would have been dealt with senior levels of management.
Would it have been helpful to you to have been briefed on this particular issue?
Yes, it would have.
Yes. You'll recall...
When you say senior levels of management, I may have been anticipating Mr. Blake's next question, but do you mean by that Mr. Dunks and Mrs. Thomas, or do you mean persons higher in the hierarchy than them?
Persons higher.
And so could you give us an indication, if you can remember, who those persons were?
The likes of Donna Monroe. So at the time, she was my boss.
Right. Sorry, Mr. Blake.
No, not at all, sir. Thank you. And was Donna Monroe involved in issues relating to the integrity of ARQ data, from your recollection?
I don't know whether she was or not. I don't know.
Was she somebody who was quite hands-on in terms of her management of the team, or hands-off?
No, she was hands-on. Yes, she knew what was happening within the team, and
this kind of an issue that Penny Thomas was involved in, would you have expected that to have been discussed between Penny Thomas and Miss Munro?
yes, it would have been, yes.
The reference there by Mr. Barnes to the defence team might spot this. Can you assist us with what the attitude within your team might have been towards defence teams in prosecutions based on Horizon data? Is this a typical comment that you might find expressed within the team?
I've never heard that expression within the team, so I don't know what the thoughts would have been for the team members.
You'll recall paragraph 21 of your statement that I took you to, where you said that you didn't have discussions with Ms. Thomas in relation to the accuracy of her witness statements. Looking at this now, does that cause you some concern about the witness statements that were submitted?
Yes, it does.
Yes. And can you think of a reason why it may have been that that wasn't subject to discussion between the two of you?
The only reason I can think of is maybe because I didn't actually go to the court proceedings, so it wasn't discussed with myself.
But given that there were only 3 of you in the team, you all shared a room. It was a secure room that couldn't be accessed by other people. Is it surprising to you that this kind of an issue wasn't more thoroughly discussed?
Yes, yes it is.
Can we please look at FUJ 001555517? We're now moving to 2011, February 2011. Now, there is an email that is forwarded to you. Now, we'll go through the email. The email is actually dated 14th of September 2010, and it's about an issue with Horizon Online. Are you able to assist us at all as to why this was sent to you or copied to you in 2011? It seems as though I can read the top entry is to Andy Dunks, and it says, as you're starting to cover audit, you need to be aware of the situation detailed in this mail string. Do you know why you're copied in there in
I think
2011?
it's for information purposes, so that I was aware that there was a situation.
And if we scroll down, we can see It's an email from Tom Lillywhite, who's described on the final page as Principal Security Consultant. And this email states as follows. On RMG, so that's Royal Mail Group, Account Fraud and Litigation Service, our Royal RMG Account Fraud and Litigation Service are currently acting on an ARQ. This request for transaction records, which covers March 2010, is in respect of an outlet which is already migrated to Horizon Online. Because of a number of technical issues, errors detected that arose during the migration up to June 2010, and which Post Office technical specialists are aware of, the information gathered in respect of this particular ARQ may be subject to issues of integrity. Our technical staff have investigated the record in question, and at this stage, although they report that there is no obvious evidence of suspicious behaviour, they can add nothing further with any certainty, and they do not have any ability to determine if there really are any financial implications with the messages. In other words, any response from us would have to bear the health warning that there was no guarantee as to the integrity of the data provided by us. The issue is of particular relevance in light of the fact that provision of an ARQ could result in a request for a statement of witness to support litigation activity. As such, any statement of witness provided would, in real terms, have to reflect this. So there seems to be the identification of a particular issue that impacts on the integrity of data. Was it common for these kinds of issues to be shared over email in this way? If we look at the top, it seems as though Penny Thomas is sending it to Andy Dunks, essentially a historic email to update him as to issues relating to integrity because he's taking up some sort of role relating to audit.
Yeah, it was normal.
That was normal. So
Yeah.
in terms of notifying people of issues relating to integrity of the audit data, would you say it was more common to receive emails rather than there to be some official documentation or notification of some sort?
Yeah, emails.
Thank you. Did this particular issue cause you any concerns?
Not at the time, no, because I didn't have that much knowledge of the system.
And knowing now all the things that we've already been through, all of those various statements that were provided, does this cause you any concerns?
It does now, yes.
Can we please look at FUJ 00229039? We're now in April 2011, 2 months later. If we can see that's an email from Gareth Jenkins to yourself, and perhaps we could go to the final, page 3, please. Bottom of page 2 into page 3. Thank you very much. There's an email from Gareth Jenkins to somebody called Sahid, and it says as follows. It's in reference to a particular branch, and it says, I've had a quick look at the info that Mark has already provided to the Post Office about the discrepancies issue last year and how it relates to this branch. It looks like this branch hit the problem twice. It then says these put together result in a net discrepancy of minus £335.66. The data relating to the first period will now have gone from BRSS, as will some of the data from the second period. Are you able to assist us with BRSS, what that means?
No, I don't remember, no.
And then at the bottom of the page it says, given that it is now clear the branch hit the bug twice, as did another branch, is that sufficient information for the Post Office, or do we need to retrieve the audit data for the relevant periods and carry out a more complete analysis? And then if we go to the bottom of page 1 into page 2, we have the email from Gareth Jenkins to Penny Thomas and yourself. And it says, Penny, or Raj if Penny is still away, Sahid has asked me to do some investigations into this branch, and most of the relevant data will have been archived from BRSS by now. Therefore, can you please retrieve the data as for an ARQ. So Mr. Jenkins is getting in touch with you about, you and Penny Thomas, about a particular bug that's affected a branch, that's caused a discrepancy, and has asked for you to run an ARQ. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
It seems from these emails that there are a number of emails relating to bugs, errors, or defects in the Horizon system. Can you assist us with why, at that particular time, you weren't more concerned about the integrity of the system?
Because I didn't have much knowledge of the system. I just saw my role as to process the ARQ requests. I wasn't involved in, or didn't have much knowledge of the issues, obviously, that have been identified.
I've said a few times about the small number of people in the room being secure, etc. People might see it as surprising that you didn't have, team meetings, discussions within the room about problems generally with Horizon, the bugs that we've just been referring to that cause discrepancies, issues with the integrity of the ARQ data. Can you assist us with why that might be the case, that there were no discussions?
Obviously, there were discussions, but obviously I didn't understand the severity of these issues compared to other senior members of the team.
You've been very candid today about now having concerns, looking back.
Yes.
In reality, though, did you have concerns during the period that we've gone over about the integrity of the system, the reliability of the ARQ data?
No, I didn't.
Because there's an email I want to take you to that you've seen. It's FUJ 00156518, please. It's the email about the Swiss cottage trial. If we have a look at the bottom page, there's an email from Graham Brander to Penny Thomas and Andy Dunks, and it says, I still haven't had confirmation as to whether either or both of you are required. It's for a particular trial relating to, it seems, Swiss cottage post office. The provisional batting order for witnesses shows Penny being required on day 2 and Andy on day 3. Andy, can you confirm that if required, you're able to cover Penny's evidence in case she's unable to attend? Penny, I've asked our legal person that if you're required, that if possible, can you give evidence on day 1, but I'm still awaiting a definitive response. If we scroll up, please. The next email says, it's from Andy Dunks to Graham Brander and Penny Thomas. As far as standing in for Penny, I do not think that my knowledge is good enough to be able to do this to the level that Penny could answer any questions. I would not be comfortable to do it. And then it's the first email in this chain, the top email of the chain that we are concerned with, which is from Penny Thomas to Donna Munro, so who you've explained was effectively the line manager of the team.
Correct, yes.
And she says, Donna, it would appear that you have a gaping hole as far as prosecution support is concerned, Andy being uncomfortable to support a basic statement and Raj not being prepared to submit one. It seems from this email, a reading of this email, is that what Penny Thomas is doing is distinguishing two different positions. The one of Andy, who said that he doesn't have enough knowledge to be able to support the statement, and on the other hand, yourself, not being prepared to submit one, suggesting that you had some real concerns about submitting a statement. Did you have real concerns about submitting a statement?
My concern was not feeling comfortable to submit a witness statement about a system that I didn't have knowledge about, proper knowledge about.
Yes. And did you think that those within your team had sufficient knowledge to submit them?
Yes, they did.
Did you, during the period that we've looked at, as I said, you've been very open about your concerns now, Was it in no way to do with those kinds of concerns that you weren't prepared to submit a witness statement back in 2010, 2011, 2012?
No, it wasn't. I just was not comfortable in producing a witness statement.
Can we please look at a later bug, and that is FUJ 00226-106. We're now in 2013. At the bottom of this page, we have an email from Gerald Barnes to CSPOA Security. Who is CSPOA Security?
It's the same team as the fraud and litigation support.
And then copied to yourself, Andy Dunks, and others. And he says as follows: a serious flaw has recently been spotted in the audit code. It was introduced in the fix to, and it gives a peak reference, quite some time ago, but post Horizon Online. There is a small possibility of missing transactions on generated spreadsheets. If the query handling was run during the evening, query manager shut down. And then he says, for example, a little further on, you may consider it necessary to check previous ARQs run. So he describes what's called a serious flaw that goes back some time ago. If we scroll up, we have Andy Dunks responding, copied to you. And he says, Gerald, can you confirm that we're talking as far back as September 2009? And actually, if you look at the peak, it seems to have been closed in 2009. So there's certainly, it seems to have been closed in 2009. Are you able to pop down and explain and show us what to look for, as we need to put together some timescales to complete the task? And then Gerald Barnes says, hi Andy, I'll come down in a few minutes. Is this something that you remember at all?
I do remember, obviously, being copied into this email, and there were discussions, but as to what those discussions, looking back on it now, I can't remember.
Because there's no answer in that email about the 2009 issue.
No.
It's just the query.
Yeah.
Can you confirm that we're talking as far back as September 2009? And the response is, I'll come down. Was that coming down to your team?
And coming down to the secure room to show us.
And you can't recall significant discussions about this issue at all?
No.
We've seen throughout the course of today your name on various emails, often copied in, about certain bugs or certain issues with ARQ data and the integrity of the data. We've seen statements from Penny Thomas exhibiting ARQ data that you had obtained and providing that standard form of words towards the end of the statement. You've, in at least one of those cases, witnessed the statement being signed.
Yes.
And we have here, for example, serious flaws in the audit code being identified. Why do you think it was that was not more of a topic of discussion within your small team?
I don't know.
Do you think it would have been appropriate or not appropriate to have had those kinds of discussions?
It would have been appropriate, yes.
And the chair's going to be considering recommendations for this inquiry in due course. So it would be helpful to know what you think went wrong in terms of the lack of knowledge that you had about the integrity of the data that you were providing for use in court proceedings. Are you able to assist us with that?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
If the chair is trying to understand what went wrong, why wasn't there this discussion about the integrity of Horizon data? What can we learn from this experience? What is it that you think, what is the reason you think for not being sufficiently informed, or for there to have been insufficient discussions about what seem like quite serious problems with the integrity of the audit data that's being provided for prosecutions?
Sorry, it's gone over my head.
Is there anything that you can think of that you didn't do as a team that would have been better had you done it?
Maybe obviously have more conversations about these issues that were identified and it being filtered down to everyone within the team.
Can we look at FUJ 00229905, please? This is a final email chain that I'll take you to that relates to bugs, errors or defects in the Horizon system. We're now in the 13th of May, 14th of May 2013. If we could go over the page, please, and start on page 2. From Gareth Jenkins to yourself, Raj, there was a significant bug on Horizon Online that affected about 14 branches that was identified earlier this year that is causing some interest with high levels of management in the post office and Fujitsu. Anne Chambers has done some detailed analysis based on information in BRDB/BRSS, but I think it would be helpful to pull back the transaction logs for the relevant periods to confirm the analysis. If we go over the page, the first page, there's a response from you to Gareth Jenkins. And you say as follows: "Hi Gareth, no problem. I've set the retrievals off now and should be able to get all the information by Friday, if not earlier. However, I'm not in the office on Wednesday and Thursday and we have an audit taking place, so not sure whether I'll have time. However, I will try to get this to you as soon as possible." And then you have an email from him to you. "Raj, please can you retrieve similar info for the following branches? This work should be chargeable to the second site CP I mentioned yesterday. If there is no more cover on that, then please let me know and I'll take it up with Pete Newsom." So we have an email from Gareth Jenkins on 13th of May that refers to a some interest with high levels of management in the post office and Fujitsu. We have reference there to second site. Were these not topics that were discussed within your team?
With myself, no, they weren't.
Did it not stand out that high levels of management, you were being told in an email that there's something of interest to high levels of management within the company?
At the time, no, it wouldn't have.
Was it known within the company that there were concerns with management and that related to, in some way, the job that you were performing or the task that you were performing?
No.
Can we please look at poll 00333387? We're now in 2014, August 2014. I think this is a meeting that you don't actually recall, but I just want to very briefly take you to it. So this is somebody from Alan Simpson from the post office sending you a draft agenda for a meeting. And then if we go to that agenda, so that's at poll 00333391. We have there some attendees from Fujitsu, some invitees from the post office. And it looks as though you are there to talk to the post office about the ARQ process. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what this is showing, yes.
I mean, given that you seem to, at least by 2014, have been a contact with the post office about the ARQ process, do you think that you were sufficiently informed about problems with the ARQ process by that stage?
Yes, I had.
And did you have discussions with the post office about concerns relating to the integrity of data?
No, I didn't.
And do you think that you had enough information, being a person who was meeting with the post office, do you think you had been provided with enough information internally relating to concerns about the integrity to be able to have passed those on?
No.
And why not?
because of obviously all these issues that have been identified, and not having the technical knowledge of the system. But obviously, in what context this meeting, this agenda is about, I can't remember what was discussed, that my name is against ARQ process. I can't recall.
And I'd just like to take you to one final document today, and that is FUJ 001800028. We're now in 2018, so quite a while later. There seems to be a general communication that's sent out, and it states as follows. Post Office Limited are currently involved in a class action brought by a group of current and former sub-postmasters, which is due in court in November 2018 and March 2019. During this period, it is possible that Freeth's solicitors who are representing the sub-postmaster group may attempt to contact Fujitsu staff. If you receive such contact, please do not respond, but instead pass the details of the contact to Pete Newsom or Chris J. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter. And it's from Gary Stewart, the delivery executive post office account. So he was somebody who worked at Fujitsu, but was responsible for the post office account. Is that
Correct, yes.
And at the top, you seem to be forwarding it to somebody called Victoria Griffin. Do you recall who she was at all?
Yes, she was a former colleague.
Was she senior to you, junior to you, same level?
She didn't work for part of the fraud and litigation support, no.
Can you recall why it may have been that you forwarded it to her at all?
Just for information.
Yes. And looking at the contents of that relating to potential contact, if you receive such contact, do not respond. Do you think that within Fujitsu, people were able to speak freely about problems with the Horizon system?
Yes, they were.
Yes. Do you think that the members of your team were able to speak sufficiently freely about the integrity issues relating to the ARQ data?
Yes, they were, yeah.
And in those circumstances, why do you think it is that within your very small team, you didn't build up sufficient knowledge to be able to raise any concerns yourself?
At the time, I didn't see a concern. So I didn't see a concern at the time.
But why did all those emails, email after email after email, not cause you some concerns?
Because it would have been dealt with by more senior technical people that had more of an understanding. I just saw my role as just processing ARQs.
Thank you. Sir, I don't have any further questions. There are questions from Mr. Steen and also from just from Mr. Steen, I think.
Right, over to you, Mr. Steen.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Sangha?
Yes.
I represent a number of sub-postmasters and mistresses, and I'm instructed by a firm of solicitors called Howe & Co. Now, I've got a few questions for you that arise out of your statement,
Okay.
and one document that I want to put to you from the background material. Can I take you to your statement, which is WITN 103-00100, and paragraph 7 of that at page 3. Thank you. Now, at this part of your statement, Mrs. Sangha, you identify the period of time that you were with Fujitsu, as you still are, as a fraud and litigation support officer in the Fraud and Litigation Support Office, okay? And we can see that if we go down to paragraph 8, if you would please, same page, that you went on leave in April 2016, and upon returning from leave in January 2017, you commenced in a new role. So between those two paragraphs, we've identified within your statement where you are saying you join in July 2010, the Fraud and Litigation Support Team, and then you go on leave in April 2016, and you come back from leave in January 17, and you're in another role. Okay.
Correct, yes.
All right. So when you join the Fraud and Litigation Support Team, and part of your tasking is to provide ARQ data for litigation conducted by the Post Office, did you have an understanding that the provision of such data was a serious job that could have serious consequences for sub-postmasters?
No, I wasn't.
Now, as time has evolved, and in particular, as you may have become aware of the issues involved in this inquiry,
Yes.
you probably have seen that this was a very serious job with real-life serious consequences for sub-postmasters. Is that fair?
Yes, that is fair, yep.
So when you joined the Fraud and Litigation Support Team, were you given any training as to the need for you to be as complete and as accurate as possible, or as to be as diligent as possible to make sure that the data provided was as good as possible?
So the only training that I received was from fellow team members.
Was there any training as to how ARQ data might be used within a court process?
No.
And now, of course, you do understand from all of the publicity created by the inquiry and indeed by the decades of campaigning that sub-postmasters have conducted over the years that because there were bugs in the system, innocent people have gone to prison
Correct.
or have lost their livelihoods,
Yes.
lost their houses, homes, lost the ability to look after themselves and their families, whether that's through prosecutions or court actions taken in the civil courts. You understand that?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've discussed matters with the gentleman that's been asking you questions this morning, Mr. Blake, about how the system worked. So can we piece that together? The ARQ data was something that you supplied on request by others, is that right?
That's right, yes.
You've also discussed with Mr. Blake the fact that you and others in your team were aware that there were bugs or issues within the Horizons system. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Within your statement, if we can now go, please, to paragraph 24, and to assist, that's at page 10. So page 10, paragraph 24. You'll see there that you're saying the inquiry has asked me to set out any other knowledge I had in respect of bugs, errors and defects in Horizon, including legacy and Horizon Online. And secondly, how I consider they impacted the work I carried out, and any concerns I may have in respect of their impact on Post Office's litigation or criminal proceedings in which you played a role. You go on to say this: I do not have any specific recollections of bugs, errors or defects in Horizon. However, I would have been aware of them during my time in the CSPOA security team. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So, you provide the ARQ data on request.
Correct.
Others, that's Mr. Jenkins and
Yes.
Ms. Thomas, provide witness statements in relation to the operation of the Horizon system. Yes?
Correct.
Where there are bugs, errors and defects within the system, was it your understanding that Ms. Thomas and Mr. Jenkins would provide any information that was required for court cases about how they may have had an impact on the operation of the system?
I don't know.
You've seen statements, draft statements and statements. You've been shown those by Mr. Blake this morning.
Yes.
And you've seen statements, therefore, that have been given by Ms. Thomas and Mr. Jenkins, yes?
Yes.
And you were aware that their roles were to provide, if you like, the court-facing evidence, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So it may be I asked a bad question, and if so, I'll have another go at putting it, all right? Would you have expected those witnesses to provide any other information about problems in the system that may be useful for the court process?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got really two things. ARQ data that you're providing, yes?
Yes.
And then an overlay of any other information that may be necessary for the court process.
Yes, definitely.
And so that would mean that, let me see, Ms. Thomas and Mr. Jenkins, if they believed that there were how can I put it, a bunch of problems with the system that the defence need to know about, you'd be expecting them to provide that information.
Yes.
All right. And in the same way, you'd be expecting them to provide information that said, well, look, the system does this, but there are these problems. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during the court process, when individual sub-postmasters and mistresses went to the Criminal Court of Appeal, Simon Clark advices were revealed at that stage, and one of them mentioned the question of the integrity or the credibility of Mr. Jenkins, and that was in around 2013. Were you ever asked any questions about whether Mr. Jenkins was a person that was providing honest evidence?
No.
Was it ever brought to your attention that there was a question about his credibility?
No.
Was it ever brought to your attention that there was any issue with his accuracy, in other words, getting things right?
No.
Was there any investigation that you're aware of within Fujitsu of Mr. Jenkins's accuracy, credibility, and integrity?
No.
Was that ever brought to your attention?
No.
Rather than going through all of that regarding Ms. Thomas, the same questions for Ms. Thomas.
Yeah, same. It would be the same, no.
Now, I'm going to take you to a document which is going back to 2010, as we've just discussed. That's when you joined this particular team, okay? The document is POL 000 28838. Now, you'll have that on your screen. I'm afraid the document is a little grey, if you like. It's sort of a little hard to read
Yeah.
because it's perhaps been copied too many times or something similar. All right, but you can see there that it's headed Receipts / Payments Mismatch Issue Notes, okay? And then we see attendees at this particular meeting and a variety of names there. Can we go to the Fujitsu names? You'll see there at the bottom. Mike Stewart, was he someone that you were familiar with?
I know the name,
In what capacity?
that he was a service delivery manager, but I didn't have no interactions with him.
John Simpkins?
Yes.
Dealings with him?
No, not really. I know that he worked in the SSC department.
Right. Now, regarding your own line management, were these within your own line management? Were they people that were above Miss Monroe or sideways, working with her? Can you recall where they existed, if you like, on anagram?
I wouldn't say they were above her. They were
Right.
to the side.
To the side. Okay.
Yes.
Now, Gareth Jenkins, we can jump over him because we've discussed that. He's within your statement as someone that you're aware of in the way that we've discussed. Then underneath that was Mark Wright, Fujitsu Technical Specialist. Someone you came across?
No.
Okay. All right. Now, then it goes on to say, what is the issue? So, period of time we're talking about in relation to this, we've looked at variously during the course of this inquiry. This is 2010. We think around August 2010. All right. What is the issue? Discrepancies showing at Horizon Counter disappear when the branch follows certain process steps, but will still show within the back-end branch account. This is currently impacting circa 40 branches since migration onto Horizon Online, with an overall cash value of circa 20k loss. This issue will only occur if a branch cancels the completion of the trading period, but within the same session continues to roll into a new balance period. And then you'll see that underneath that, at this time, we have not communicated with branches affected, and we do not believe they're exploiting this bug intentionally. Now, top of next page, please. So second page on relativity, where it says, right, if we look at the top there, it says, note at this point, nothing into, that's the word it says there, feeds pole sap and credence. So in effect, the pole sap and credence shows the discrepancy, whereas the horizon system in the branch doesn't. So the branch will then believe they are balanced. And then just lastly, in relation to this, look at impact, please, at the bottom of that particular page. So second page within relativity, impact, if you can highlight that, please, I'll be very grateful. Thank you. Under impact. So what does this mean is where we've now got to within this document. The branches appeared to have balanced, whereas in fact they could have a loss or a gain. Our accounting systems will be out of sync with what is recorded at the branch. If widely known, could cause a loss of confidence in the horizon system by branches, potential impact upon ongoing legal cases where branches are disputing the integrity of horizon data. It could provide branches ammunition to blame horizon for future discrepancies. Okay? It may be a bit of an understatement, but the impact looks pretty significant.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Now, as we've looked at within your statement, you came into this particular part of work within Fujitsu in July 2010.
Yes.
You've said within your statement that you were made aware, paragraph 24, we've discussed this before, you would have been made aware of bugs or defects in Horizon, is what you said then. So, help us with this particular one. This is this submarine bug, which can't be detected by branches, a significant one you agree, serious one you agree.
Yes.
Was that something that you were alerted to in 2010, not long after you came into this particular post?
I can't remember.
If you had been, would this have caused you some concerns?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yes. You've mentioned, in relation to Mr. Blake's questions today, a number of times he asked you that sort of question, which is, would this have caused you concern? Who should, within the system that you were working within Fujitsu, who should have kept you up to date with these things? Who should have been talking to you about these things? In other words, who was responsible for not dealing with these matters and discussing them with you?
I would say management.
Management. And from your perspective, would that have been Miss Munro, or would it have been others above her?
I would say others above.
Why not Miss Munro, just out of interest? Why not her as well, if you like?
Her as well.
Yeah. Fine, all right. I know this is difficult because, of course, you're still working for Fujitsu, so we all understand that. Now, when you left that particular team, we've looked at this before, paragraph 8, I went on leave in 2016, and you then came back into a different role, okay? All right.
Yes.
By the time you've gone on leave in April of 2016, who's taking over from your role? In other words, the role of providing data, ARQ data, for potential prosecutions or civil actions by POL?
So at that time, our team had expanded because obviously we had taken on more work. So there were other people within the team as well.
Right. So when you left, there was other capacity in terms of people capacity.
Yes.
If I put it that way. Right. Now, we know that the Post Office stopped prosecuting cases itself, in other words, taking people itself to courts, and the matters were left to the Crown Prosecution Service within England and Wales and other prosecution authorities in parts of the devolved jurisdiction. Okay? Cases are still being prosecuted of sub-postmasters, this time by the CPS, using data from Fujitsu. Who's in charge of that? Who's dealing with that now?
I don't know.
Now, we've looked at and examined the question, as has Mr. Blake to a large extent this morning as well, about the level of bugs, errors, defects within the system that were brought to your attention, okay? And you've said in your statement that they would have been brought to your attention and so on. Were you aware that Fujitsu had the, staff members at Fujitsu had the capacity and ability to alter branch data remotely?
No.
Was that ever explained to you?
No.
You're aware within all of these court proceedings that that's a matter that has been discussed, the question of remote access into branches and altering branch data. You're aware that that's been discussed?
It has, yes, I'm aware of it.
And that's not something you've ever asked about?
No.
About your period of time when you're looking at these things, looking at these matters, providing data. You've never asked whether the data had been altered anyway by someone at Fujitsu?
No.
Are there people still in post within Fujitsu who are responsible for not making sure that you're aware of these issues?
No, they're not in post.
To your knowledge, is the Horizon system still being used to provide data that is used in court proceedings?
Yes, I think it is.
Thank you, Mr. Sangha.
Thank you, Mr. Steen. Are there questions from anyone else?
No, sir, that's all for today.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Sangha, for providing a witness statement and coming to the inquiry to answer a good number of questions. I'm very grateful to you. So we'll adjourn now until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much, sir.